The views expressed are not those of local community broadcasting, WYML LP, or its management, volunteers, or underwriters. Greetings and welcome to the Personal Safety Show. This is Marcus Melnick from Firearm Mentor and Stress 2 Logic, your host. And there's a lot of interesting things that are happening both in the Chicago area and in the world. Talk about some Facebook posts that I've seen. Somebody not far from me posted a picture of a gang tagging. It was a 6-pointed star. It said GD on it. To me, who worked in law enforcement for a long time, it was very clear it's Gangster Disciple. It's one of the major gang factions in at least the Chicago area. And these gangs, to mark their territory, they put their symbols up. The symbol for Gangster Disciple is a Jewish star, Star of David, Magen David. And these people were saying that, hey, look, that's anti-Semitic because they put a Jewish star up in spray paint. There was nothing disparaging. There was no saying, kill the Jews, hate the Jews, no red, no blood. And so I responded with that it was a gang symbol and it was not anti-Semitic. And I got some people, why a 6-pointed star? Well, I looked it up because I really wasn't sure. The predominant symbol of the Gangster Disciples is the 6-pointed Star of David. The colors are black and blue, and the 6-pointed star is symbolic of the gang's 6 principles of love, life, loyalty, wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. Notice obedience to the law was not in that list, so that's me being facetious. But in any event, not everything that we see is racist. Not everything that we see is anti-Semitic. A lot of times people have this unconscious bias. They think the world is out to get me, or they think everything that they see is racist. I want my listeners to know that this is my dream, teaching people about safety. If it weren't for you, if it weren't for my listeners, I couldn't live my dream. So on behalf of my family and myself, I want to thank each and every one of you for allowing me to live my dream. And I also want to continue to live my dream, and I'm excited to continue to spread the word of safety. Recently, I began a new service as a conference keynote speaker. So if anyone would like for me to speak at future events, or if anyone knows of an introduction or would like to discuss how we can work with one another, I'd love to do just that. The keynote speaking website is www.stress2logic.com. That is STRESS2logic.com. If you're aware of any conference speaking engagements where you'd like to have me speak, I'd love an introduction. You can always share my electronic business card, which is Marcus Melnick, MarcusMelnick.com. Now, back to the show. In other news, I tell this story, and I tell it incorrectly, not anymore, in my classes about a friend of mine who had a lot of money stolen from him. And the suspect in this theft, actually it was 2 thefts, ultimately met his demise at a home invasion at the beginning of the pandemic. It was a house in Arlington Heights, broad daylight. 2 thugs, one of whom was a suspect in my friend's case, kicked in the door to rob them. And I thought previously, I was told that one bad guy, the guy who basically robbed my friend, went up the stairs and the homeowner shot and killed him. And while that is true, there's more to the story. And the wife of this house, the lady of the house, posted something on Facebook that I would like to share with everyone. And this was posted last week. It has been 4 years today. This will be my last post, including these intruders, as the case has been brought to an official close. Moving forward, April 4th will be posts celebrating my family and bravery only. Before listening, please understand that this is going to be pretty graphic. On April 4th, 2020, there was an armed home invasion of the Maniscalco family. You may recognize that. They are related to Sebastian. A nightmare nightmare survived with lasting scars. So 4 years ago, the state was in a mandatory lockdown due to COVID, and the lockdown had been in place for 3 weeks at the time. Families were told only to go out for food and medical treatment if needed, and otherwise stay home. Home, your place of comfort, your place of safety, your place of everything, your family. On April 4th, our home, our everything, would be changed forever. Most people, especially local, have heard of or are aware of our story, and only those closest to us know the story in its entirety. There is only one real story, though many different have been passed around over the last 4 years. Rumors as to how and why what happened to our family on that day happened. Rumors and stories about my family and the reasons for what happened that day, April 4th, was the most traumatic day in my family's life, a day, an incident so horrific it changed every aspect of our lives forever. There is so much detail and things to say, it is impossible to share it all. I have relived this day in my mind 1,000,000 times over. It remains overwhelming in a thought and is a fear I will carry with me always. It remains a day we don't go to forget while everyone else does. Something like this stays with you. It changes you and how you see things. You can keep moving forward, healing being a constant process. My family is always moving forward, just as we did on April 4th when we pressed forward in the fight for our lives. Why did the intruders choose us? That's the question. One I would give anything to have an answer, and hysterically cried begging for that answer as I sat in the Arlington Heights police station the evening of April 4th. As the detective would tell me, this was a question I would most likely have to find a way to let go of, as the answer may never be found. While some people have created their own answers or rumors to this question, the fact remains the reason is unknown. Unknown on how they chose us, other than an intruder's belief that there was money in our home to be found. Why did the intruders believe this? Well, another unknown, yet again. Some in the public have made up their own answers and rumors to this question. I have said it again and will again. We have an amazing community here in Arlington Heights, and my family is truly blessed with the loving support of so many friends and family. We are incredibly fortunate. However, there is something I must address as I talk about this horrific, life-changing day. As blessed as we are by the support and love of those that know us and are surrounded by so much good, all caps, there were people out there making up their own narrative and further victimizing my family with rumors just so they can make a good story to tell, as if there was anything good about that day. If there is something I can ask of those in public opinion, don't speak of things you don't know anything about. Don't hurt people who are already hurting in the worst way you cannot imagine just because you have fabricated outrageous stories, giddy to tell, that carry no actual fact. It is harmful beyond measure and should be a crime. The rumors I heard about my family after this heinous armed home invasion were nothing short of disgusting. My family was going through the worst time of our lives without the need of added insult and injury. The challenges in our survival during and after the invasion were already incredibly weighted. Leave the attacks and the lies to the criminals. It's that simple. So who was the intruder? Well, he was a 58-year-old man at the time of the home invasion, and the intruder lived in Buffalo Grove. Apparently, 20-something years ago, lived 3 blocks near them. They did not know the intruder. They never met the intruder. The only coincidental connection was that the intruder's ex-wife happened to train for a brief time in the same gym as the man of the house trained in for many years. At the police station, it was brought to our attention that the intruder was a lifelong criminal, and this intruder that we're talking about was the alleged thief from my friend's case. And that was my comment. So at the police station, it was brought to the family's attention that the intruder was a lifelong criminal with his criminal record going back to his youth. He committed many crimes. At one point, he owned a locksmith service of which he would change homeowners' locks, keep a copy of the key, and return to rob or burglarize them when they were no longer home. He had been arrested for home invasion before with intent to harm. The intruder was a known criminal that should not have been out on the streets. There were two intruders, and they had stalked the home and family in preparation of the crime. The Arlington Heights Police Department collected data to this fact. The day after the home invasion, the home invader's daughter posted on Facebook and changed her profile picture to "My father, the hero." Her, quote, hero chased me up the stairs in my home, calling after me, quote, "Stop, you bitch, I'm going to kill you," end quote. I ran to get my children into my son's bedroom and pushed myself against the locked bedroom door, only to have the intruder, this person's hero, come barreling down the hall after me and blow the door off the frame, throwing me back on the floor, grabbing my 11-year-old daughter with a gun to her head, throwing her on the bed, and then grabbing my 14-year-old son, putting the gun to his forehead and screaming at him, "Where's your gun?" I got off the floor to get between the intruder and my son, to have the intruder grab me by the hair, repeatedly slamming me into my son's dresser, trying to push me down, telling me he was going to kill me, as my daughter pulled a sheet over her head on the bed screaming "Mommy," and my son paralyzed in shock with tears streaming. I continued to struggle and fight as best I could when I heard my husband coming up the stairs yelling my name. When my husband reached the top of the stairs, he ran into our master bedroom. The intruder saw my husband go that way, threw me, and ran after my husband. At this point, I pushed my kids to the side of my son's bed as I could not close the door. The intruder had broken down and told my son to call 911 so I could call neighbors for immediate help. When the intruder entered the master bedroom, my husband was leaning down to retrieve my handgun from a safe, and the bad guy's pistol whipped Sebastian in the back of the head, splitting it open. My husband spun around, and the two were in battle. Both guns had been thrown. The intruder bit a piece out of my husband's arm and raised his hands to punch my husband's face, but my husband bit the intruder's finger off. The intruder reached for his belt for a knife and was attempting to stab my husband in the throat. My husband, with his MMA training, dislodged and removed one of the intruder's eyes from the socket as he was fighting for his life, and then was able to disarm the knife and put it to the bad guy's jaw and face, then choke him out. The husband thought it was over and got up to look for us, but the intruder stood up, pulled the knife out of his face, and lunged to attack and stab my husband, at which time my husband leaned down, grabbed the gun, and shot the intruder, then rushed down the hall yelling my name. My husband did not know if he would find us dead or alive. Does the intruder sound like a hero? How could such a harmful statement be made? As said by the Arlington Heights Police, my husband is a true hero, and if not for his actions that day, they would have been investigating a much different and devastating crime. My husband is, in fact, a hero. Now, the other intruder was a criminal with a sinister master plan. The second intruder, who was living in Chattanooga, Tennessee at the time, he crossed state lines to come here to commit this premeditated crime against my family, was originally from Rockford, Illinois. That morning, about 9 or 9:30, he went on Facebook to wish his daughter a happy 12th birthday and told her he could not wait to celebrate with her later that day. Clearly, with no concern of being caught for his crime he was going to commit later that day. The intruder, while living in Chattanooga, had been in touch with the first intruder several times in preparation regarding the armed home invasion. The second offender, driven by the first offender who was waiting in a parking lot and drove off when he was caught in a hardware store trying to steal items, so not to have a record of the sale. He intended to use to harm my family, including zip ties, duct tape, rope, and a blowtorch. Because he was caught before he left the store, they did not arrest him, but filled out a police report. And a few days later, he went into another hardware store and purchased the items. These items would be later found at my home in the duffel bag the second intruder was carrying and left behind. There were 4 ready-made zip tie handcuffs, duct tape, rope, gloves, a blowtorch, to name some. Both intruders came to our home armed with guns, a knife, and a duffel bag filled with torturous and restraint items. When the intruders forced their way into the home, they both were yelling and attacking my husband as I came running down the stairs towards them, screaming to get off my husband. When the intruder went after me and my children still in the house, the second intruder continued to attack and fight my husband, and the fight was pushed out the back door, onto the porch, down the driveway. My husband's shorts fell off as he continued to fight. 2 months post off of a full knee replacement, and he was yelling for help from the onlooking landscapers that did nothing but watch. At one point, at the end of the driveway, the intruder had rolled up and got in and ran not of choice but by force. My husband then ran back up to the house, up the stairs for what happened as previously written. The next day, the second offender's girlfriend would write on Facebook, he did it for his family. He did it for his family? He wished his daughter a happy 12th birthday on social media without a care in the world, while he approached my home with a duffel bag with handcuffs for all of us, from my 11-year-old daughter that would be 12 in 2 months, and items to hurt my family and leave us for dead, and then go on to celebrate his daughter's birthday. He did it for his family? When the intruder escaped, he went back to the getaway car and went into a train station to go to his mom's house. Both intruders had planned and prepared extensively for my family. They walked confidently through the blocks of our Arlington Heights neighborhood, well armed with weapons and a duffel bag filled with zip-tie handcuffs and torturous items. Wearing hats, gloves, jackets, and masks, COVID gear, they walked up to our door, looked directly into our camera at 2 p.m. on a sunny Saturday afternoon during a mandated lockdown, knowing our family of 4 would come home and they were well prepared to do harm to us. There was no hesitation in their plan, their sinister plan. This event, this crime, is not something you ever just move on from. You don't forget, and the things that have changed your life will never go back to being the same. The home we lived in was my husband's childhood home. His parents built it when he was 3 years old, and he lived there his entire life. It's no longer his home, no longer our home. The unconditional safety one feels in their home is forever gone. The innocence of my children's childhood, their right to feel safe, their right to not feel as if others mean them harm, is gone. The sound of someone knocking on the door, the doorbell, the sound of running up steps become frightening sounds. The familiarity you see in others' faces that remind you of those that tried to hurt you, that calm that comes with ease, is gone. So much is gone, but what's the most important and remains? We are here. We survived. The armed home invasion on April 4th, 2020 resulted in the death for the first intruder, who was the suspect in my friend's case. The second intruder was sentenced on September 11th, 2023 to 45 years and must serve 50%. In other words, he's going to be locked up for at least 22 and a half years before he can apply for parole. After going to court every month for over 3 years, this case is closed. Certainly, there is more that could be said about this day and our journey since April 4th and as we move forward, but this is where I will leave it. Thank you to everyone who supported and continues to support our family. Thank you, Arlington Heights Police Department and all of the divisions and special teams that answered the call that day and the ongoing support to our family. Thank you, Sergeant Val Sanders. You are an amazing person. We are incredibly thankful and blessed. So, there were some victim impact statements for September 11th, 2003, and I want to read them to you. This is what the family said. They say monsters only come to us in our sleep. They intrude our minds and bring feelings of fear and visions of death, placing us in nightmares that can leave us breathless. But then we wake and find ourselves safe in our homes, and the world is right again. For my family, our world can never be truly right again, for we have survived a nightmare that we could never wake up from. On April 4th, 2020, 2 monsters intruded on my home and my family. I wasn't sleeping, and I couldn't wake to find safety. I was in a living nightmare, a nightmare my family would be forced to look evil in the eye and fight for our safety. Our home was no longer the keeper of a safe space. It had become the monster's device, their trap to take us hostage and do harm. Our home was used against us, a home my husband's parents built and he had lived in since he was 3 years old, a home my children were born in and had met every milestone to date, every memory, every part of their lives. Monsters have now taken this. Evil was not invited into our home on April 4th. The bad guys forced their way in, intruding, igniting all of our unwelcome feelings of fear and danger, a living nightmare that portrayed our lives coming to an end. We were stalked like prey, as you created your sinister plan for our unsuspecting family of 4. You studied our home. You prepared for an 11-year-old girl, a 14-year-old boy, and their mother and father. Taking advantage of a pandemic that brought fear of its own and mandated people to be home, so to protect themselves. But you, the monster, the intruder, used that pandemic as one of your weapons, as your guarantee that the 4 victims you carefully planned for would be captive in your trap. A monster has no barriers, no concern of loss or consequence. They have no appreciation of well-being or value of life. A monster solely feeds their wants, their needs, and their desires. I read in a report where you had tried to steal items from a hardware store you were carrying in your black duffel bag. The 4 ready-made zip tie handcuffs you made for my family to bind us, the duct tape and blowtorch, to name more. But you were caught trying to steal these items, and perhaps this was God telling you to turn away. This was not the right thing to do. It was a warning. But monsters don't heed warnings. They feed their desire and then continue the plan, just as you continued on to another hardware store at a later date to purchase items you would carry in your black duffel bag that were intended to harm my family. I was shown on social media where you had wished your daughter a happy 12th birthday on the morning of April 4th, and you told her you couldn't wait to celebrate that with her later that day. Celebrate? Only a monster could participate in a celebration that would follow the sinister intrusion and harm you placed for my family of 4, my 11-year-old daughter that would turn 12 2 months later. In your plan to celebrate, there were no thoughts of consequence or fear of being caught. In your plan, we would not be left with a voice to speak or ability to bear witness. We would have just been left lying in your trap in what should have been the safety of our home. On April 4th, 2020 at 1:55 in the afternoon, you showed up on this bright, sunny day. You were wearing jeans and a jacket over a t-shirt, baseball cap, and a medical mask and gloves. You were carrying a black duffel bag with your torturous items inside, and you and your partner were also armed with guns and a knife. The sounds of that day can never escape my memory. The fear and the moment I truly believed that this was the day my family was going to die. Running to find 2 men attacking my husband in our home. Running for my children to try and save them while being chased and told they would be killed. Trying to secure my children in a bedroom. Praying for the safety to have a door broken down, throwing me back while a gun gets put to my children's head. And fighting back to put the gun towards myself. Begging not to hurt them, and sounds of gunshots, believing my husband had been killed. So many sounds and so much happening. It was so fast but felt so slow. How dare you make this attack on my family? How dare you take the safety of our home, my children's innocence and the right to feel safe, to feel the comfort and protection of their home? How dare you? There is damage that is immeasurable and irreversible. You have stolen things that cannot be replaced and summoned emotions that cannot be defined by words. You have changed my family's lives forever with your evil intent. Evil did not win on April 4th, 2020. I stand here reading this statement because my family is blessed and my family survived. I am so thankful and proud of my husband's will to protect my family and my children's bravery that day and every day since to move forward. Your repulsive, sinister plan was served back to you by karma. You planned, you brought everything you needed to do great harm. You had no regard of consequence or fear of justice for the incredible wrongdoings you were going to execute that day. Everything you thought of, everything you planned, you forgot one thing. What if they fight back? You picked the wrong family. Remember that for the rest of your life. You picked the wrong family. The sentence of time you're given here today could be never adequate of what you truly deserve. But I trust and have faith in God. The evil you protect will carry its consequence on your soul. And that was the victim statement. Now, if you noticed, I took out names because I don't want anything to get back to me. And I did reach out to the person who posted this on Facebook to see if she would be interested in appearing on the show and just telling her story. I have not heard back yet, but I anticipate that I will shortly, or I won't. She might not want to retell her story, and I get that. When I have people on the show who have been through a traumatic time, what I tell them is, look, the last thing I want to do is re-traumatize you. Sometimes I'll talk about things, or someone else will talk about things that bring back memories and re-traumatize me. I just don't want to talk about it. So I respect that. I respect the healing that people have gone through. So if you are involved in some heinous crime as the victim and would like to tell your story on the show, please reach out to me. My electronic business card is marcusmelnick.com. That is marcusmelnick.com. And if you noticed in the story, there were a lot of things that the victim statement said that I actually teach in my keynotes, like paralysis. The 5 ways to respond to a stressful incident are fight, flee, freeze, or submit. And freezing is paralysis. And if you're me, there's a 5th one, and that's to eat. When I'm under stress, I eat. And if you're laughing, you got the joke. So I try to bring a little bit of lightheartedness to negative stories. And this is a story that's horrendous, but the positives are, and I hate to say this, but he will not be committing crimes for at least 22 and a half years. One of the offenders is dead. He cannot commit any more crimes. And of course, he has a family. I'm not trying to justify anything, but there was a death, and they will mourn his family will mourn him because they loved him. And that's what families do. Even gangbangers, when one of their gang members is killed, they mourn. Might not be a great person, but they still mourn. So my goal is to promote the message of safety. That's one of the reasons why I teach my concealed carry classes. And if anyone has any questions, please reach out to me. Once again, electronic business card is marcusmelnick.com. Stay tuned for more. The views expressed are not those of local community broadcasting, WYML LP, or its management, volunteers, or underwriters.